Katherine Garard, what a pleasure. I love speaking to artists. She is a songwriter, she's a singer. She plays the harp. She's from Lima, Peru. Her father is French, so she left and spent much time in Europe, in Greece, in Spain, France. She plays, like I mentioned, she plays the harp. Her songs are in Spanish. The three songs that on Spotify that I listen to are really, really good. We talk about it. We talk about her process. Just the whole way that artists create their art to me is just endlessly fascinating. Where some know the exact end, some know the beginning, some know the middle, some don't know anything at all, and how she puts it all together. The blank page. I just love the different answers I get from artists about the blank page. What do you do with it? She has a specific way of just, she wrote 75 days in a row, just anything, to get it down, and that just kills the blank page. Great discussion on motivation and how she views success. She's just very impressive, and her music is so. The first song we talk about is a song called Quiero, where it's the song calls for a duet. She says, she wrote it herself, and she has another person come in, and it's hard driving his part in the song. And there's a video that follows it as well, and she talks about that process. But I really, really enjoy my conversation with Katherine. Artists I just can't get enough of them. She's into 19th century literature, and that comes through in the music as well. Just a great conversation with Katherine. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. You, Katherine Garard, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. How do you know, Katherine, when a song is done? When you're done in the studio with it, how do you know when it's completed?
When you don't feel like there's no more corrections that you want to do, like something is like you start adding things, tweaking things, and then at some point it's like, okay, I corrected enough things, I took enough decisions. So it's the last decision is, okay, I decide that this song is done. So because otherwise you can be working and working endlessly on a song and it's never finished. So at some point you have to decide, it's finished now.
Mm.
So
And I can think of songs that have been kind of overproduced, right?
mhm.
That have just so when you're writing a song, when you're making the songs like the ones we're going to talk about shortly, there's a team effort there too. So there's others involved. I mean, what happens when there's conflict where they feel like they've got to add more and others don't?
So if it's important, what's important on a team is that people have clear like the goal, like what
Mm,
you want to achieve with that song, and that you try the most possible that the as much as possible that egos don't get involved.
mm,
So it's important to work with people that, especially they know what you want to do. So if you want to do, let's say, something classical, they know about the all the technicals of getting a song to that sound. But it's also very important that you are kind of on the same page. So dialogue, communication before even starting anything is the most important phase. So your producer, for example, is very clear on what vibe you want to achieve for that project. So that's first, and then the second is egos don't get involved. The
Mm,
most important thing is the project, the song. um, and therefore it's not about I want my guitar to sound like louder or my voice to sound louder. It's the project, what is better for that project, and maybe for that song what's better is that the guitars have a secondary role, for example. So you just accept that it's something bigger than you, bigger
mm,
than you wanting to shine. In my particular case, I work alone with my producer. I am a solo artist, so generally speaking, I don't have to deal with that. But I've heard many stories of bands where they are always like, one comes to the studio, they put more volume onto something, and then someone else arrives and they want to put more volume onto something else. And that's why the producer figure is so important, because they are outside of the process. In a certain way, they can see it from
mm,
another perspective, and also from a commercial perspective, what is going to be the best for the song, commercially speaking, as well. And it's important to have someone that is taking the final decision on that. And sometimes you have to trust the one who has more experience. For example, my producer, he's like 60 years old. He's produced so many things and different kinds of projects. So I can have like an idea, but I'm flexible. I If he said something, there's a reason why.
mm,
And it's like, you think it's something like, oh, can you put a piano there? And you just think about the piano, but he's thinking how I'm going to fit those frequencies there, how I'm going to fit the
mm,
volume, the space, the sound landscape, etc., etc., etc. Which piano I am going to choose, because not every piano sounds the same,
mm,
etc., etc. So it's like a myriad of variables that you have to take into account, and therefore having someone that is responsible for that last decision is actually the wisest thing you can do for your project, instead
mm.
of having it like an ego battle.
Egos get in the way all too often when
Mm.
there's more than one person. What is your writing process, Catherine? What do you do with the blank page? How do you start?
Okay, so my method for overcoming blank page syndrome, first of all, is like fooling yourself into believing there's no such thing as blank page syndrome.
Mm,
And then you apply a physical action. It's not just like a positive affirmation, you have to also take action. And the action is, don't expect yourself to have the masterpiece right in the first 5 minutes of writing. That's
mm,
absolutely not how it works. Rather, you just dump in the first BS that comes to your mind. Literally, the first is like, I ate a sandwich for breakfast today.
hmm,
Literally the silliest thing you can think of, the first thing that comes into your mind, just dump it in your paper. And then something magical happens, is that the paper isn't blank anymore.
mm,
So there's no blank page syndrome anymore, because
mm,
there's already something written there, and you have emptied your mind. That's what I do. So at first I empty my mind, and then I just keep writing and writing, and then suddenly that takes me somewhere, and suddenly I'm writing something.
mm,
And so at first, since I was like learning music at the same time of writing music, it was easier for me to go with the lyrics first and then put a melody on them. And if I needed to adapt something, I would adapt whatever was needed. So I would start with the lyrics, and then I will go for the music. At first, I would seek help from other musicians who had more experience, more practice time, and they will give me like little ideas, and then I will develop further on those ideas. And now I am writing music where I am starting to start with the music first and the
Wow.
melodies first. Sometimes the melody will come. I had a song that I wrote that I literally started with the music and then with a melody. I haven't started yet with like a harmony yet. It's either lyrics or melody that comes into my mind, and then I figure out the harmonies. So each song is like a world on itself. So
Hmm.
it's like a very unique process for each of them. Yeah.
And do you actually say, I'm going to sit and write a song, or are you doing something else and it comes to you?
I had both. I have a period of time for my project that is already released, my first EP, where those four songs came from a period of my life where I said, I'm going to write lyrics, one lyric every day. And sometimes they were terrible and sometimes they were good.
Hmm.
And sometimes they will be like this style that I'm doing right now, like symphonic metal type of thing, and sometimes they will come out more like a pop style or blues. So after 75 songs, so 75 days writing,
Wow.
I will choose four in that style that I wanted to develop. And I have the others that are good, but in other styles for maybe later another project or for selling to another artist, things like that. So you have to do tones. And then from those tones of things, the gems will start to come
Hmm.
out. So yeah, you have to dump a lot of bad things in the process.
Do you believe in kind of the so there's this great story, Catherine, where Bob Dylan back in the 60s writes this song Along the Watchtower. And then within a couple of weeks, Jimi Hendrix is performing that song live. And Bob Dylan sees him performing that song and says, that was never my song. I know it came to me, but I will never play it again. That's the way it should be playing. So many artists believe that it may come to them, but it's not really theirs. What do you think about that?
I truly feel that it's like the ideas are I picture it like the ideas are floating in the ethereal world and they
Hmm.
are in search of a channel to come to this plane, to this
Hmm.
physical reality. And sometimes you are open and they choose you because you have like the unique experience and view of the world, etc., to actually come to life through you the way they are. But an artist is a service that we do to bring spiritual nourishment for people in this plane. That's my feelings about
Hmm.
that I am doing a service for humanity through the art that I do. So it's like a responsibility for me to make it meaningful, not just a superficial thing that is easily sold and that's it.
Hmm.
But you need everything in life. You need that contrast, and then people are free to choose. However, like with food, like you have McDonald's and you have grass-fed meat, and it's up to you to decide which one you are taking. And it's all part of that huge learning process that we call life. So I feel that way, that yeah, sometimes it come through a chat, but it had to be like that because if he hasn't written that song, then Jimi Hendrix wouldn't have been able to perform it and
Hmm.
finish. So it's more like a co-writing thing, and
Hmm.
him having that humility to accept this is a service that we are doing. That's very beautiful because he doesn't have this ego, this jealousy, or no, what he did to my song is
Hmm.
not is for the world. So of course in the material aspect of things, we are responsible with copywriting and all those things, author rights, etc. But spiritually speaking, it's a service you do for the world, for the humanity.
Your process, Catherine, do you consider it when you write these songs, is it more art or science, or is it a mixture of both?
It's a mixture of both. It's a phase for everything. So I have a very instinctive phase, sometimes even unconscious, where I don't even have an idea. I have songs where I really don't know up to this day what they are talking about, and that's
Wow.
fine. It's you don't need to have an explanation for everything. And then when it comes to doing the orchestration, the harmony, and all those series of decisions that you have to take, it's like a puzzle. So it's very, very rational at this point. So it's like the content comes first, and then it's like when you are drawing, for example, a landscape. You see nature is actually chaotic on itself. What gives it an order and a structure is our observation, our consciousness
Mm.
saying, I am aware, I am seeing the nature, and I put some orders on it. So when you have a river, for example, you do what is called composition of the image. And so you order that in a certain way to provoke a certain feeling. And so it looks like there is a structure and a story that's being told. But you see the same landscape in real life. It's just chaos. It's the stones are there gathered, etc. So it's your consciousness. So it's like, okay, I dumped all those feelings here, and now I come with my consciousness and I put an order, I compose. That's why also music is called composing the music. You are
Mm.
putting an order and giving consciousness to that mass of feelings and things that you just took out from yourself.
You're I wanna start with Chiaro. So it's this wonderful, uh, it is a duet. It's you wrote it as I understand, and you start in the beginning, and it's wonderful, and it's poetic, and it's instrumental, then your partner comes in, and it's more hard driving and heavier, and then there's a great balance. It's theatrical, and there's a video that goes along with it. Talk to me about your process there. It's a beautiful song.
Thank you. Yeah, so I wrote that song, and from the first time, from the first drafts, I knew it had to be a duet.
Mm,
So I don't like forcing duets. It's like a great strategy for promotion and everything, but I will always try to, okay, is that song really asking for a duet?
mm,
And if not, I will just keep writing until I get a song that actually needs a duet. So I can have a balance. There's no need to be completely market driven.
mm,
You can have this balance between. It's harder because everything goes faster, and with social media and everything, many artists have fallen into that illusion that they have to be super fast and make beats every day, and this FOMO, right? But actually not. You can build a brand while doing your things at your own pace. And so if I want to do a collaboration or something, I would just keep writing and writing and writing until something screams, I want to do it. I need someone else here. It feels more authentic to me. And so that song happened to have that. So I said that needs a duet, and I'm not releasing that until I can find someone. So
wow.
I we talked with this person, is fairly known in the Spanish heavy metal industry in South America and Spain, and I was lucky he wanted and could do the project at that time. And so that's why it came out like that, and everything was already written and produced. My producer made like a sample. He sang for him to know what was his part and everything. And so then he jumped in and put his own magic, and that's how it came out.
Catherine, I sometimes talk to authors, fiction authors, and they tell me that they have this character in mind, but then as they're writing, the character takes over and it goes in a direction that they had no idea that it would go into. I get the feeling as you described that song right there, that's a similar feeling with you.
um Not really. Always there's like an unknown factor,
Mm,
but that was kind of the vision. I wanted that contrast. I'm always looking for contrast and nuance in my music. So basically, there are two ways of creating fiction. Sorry. Some people will just write and kind of discover the story while they are writing.
Right.
And then other people, like for example J.K. Rowling writes like that. They first do a whole outline, and she actually knew exactly what was happening in all the seven books till the end before actually writing everything. So I am kind of in between. Again, it
Hmm.
depends on the song. Sometimes I'm very clear what I want to talk about. Sometimes I just let myself surprise by whatever the idea wants to bring to me. So I I'm not fixed in one or another method. Sorry, I think it's good to be flexible.
Mm.
So it's yes, I have a vision. So rather, I had a vision for that song, how I wanted it to sound, but I'm not going to control every single little aspect of it. I'm just letting it get to that vision through whatever way it needs to. So I know
Is
like
there
the beginning and the end, but not the middle.
the middle? Hmm. Is there a wrong way to write a song or even to create art?
No, I would say the only wrong way it's when it's not about the art anymore, when it's about
Ah.
you being the protagonist or
Mm.
only but then it's not art anymore.
Hmm.
I feel when you are writing music that you know is gonna be like a sure success only for the commercial, that's purely strategic, and
Mm.
I don't think it's wrong. For example, Christina Aguilera did that. She's a very talented, obviously, but I love her so much. She was the one who inspired me to sing, even though I my style has nothing to do with hers.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, she was the one that I listened to that. I want to sing as good as her. and and she would do this first album with Genie in a Bottle, etc. That is nothing like her really. So it's 2000s pop that has nothing to do with her because she grew up listening to blues and soul
Mm.
and this type of music. And but she said the first most important thing is just put your foot in the door so they
Mm.
don't close it to you, and then you can enter, and once you are in there you do whatever you want. So that's what she did. She said, okay, I'm going through that album. It's not my favorite album, but it's fine. Now that I'm in, I'm doing back to basics and doing what I feel like doing really.
Hmm.
And so it's not like the other one is less valuable. I love both albums, but you have to balance between. You cannot be like, oh, all for the art and or all for the gains. It's how you can balance. And so that's why I don't think there's a wrong way. It's just the intention behind it. Some people are products of marketing, and their music doesn't have good intentions behind, and music is very powerful. It can really influence vibrationally people, and so it's very important to choose very well what you're listening to, like, because that can really program you. So sometimes most of the times artists have things they haven't worked on themselves, and they are just putting those limitations on their music, and people who have the same limitations will feel identified to that. But some other times there's I feel like there's a real when you listen to the lyrics, and at first they don't really make sense. You listen to them closely, and it's like, man, that sounds like a spell. They are really enchanting you in a bad sense, right? You have to be very aware of that. And so it's just a tool, and you can help people or destroy people with it. So I just choose to help.
It's interesting you mentioned Christina Aguilera. I was reminded recently. I heard recently her song "Beautiful," and I was
Mm.
just it gives me chills. Just absolutely amazing the emotion. I'm not sure if you know the story behind it, where I think that was her first take, and she wanted to do again, but the producer said it will never be as vulnerable. So
Hmm.
they went with the first. I think that's the story, but
Yes.
yeah, it's wonderful. The video to Quiero, to the song, you're very much into the 19th century literature. You've talked about that before, and talk to me about the process of making the video along with the song.
Yeah, so the first video, that is Guerra de Dolor, I hired someone else to
Uh,
do it, but it was very expensive. And so then after that, I had three more songs, and I just was too sad that they wouldn't have their animation. So I was just browsing on YouTube. I put like how to do 2D animation. Like I was like, how difficult can that really be,
uh,
right?
uh.
And then I saw someone talking about Procreate, which is an app for iPad, and I happened to have an iPad, and I was like, really, seriously, I can do animation with that. And something took me, and I just downloaded the app. I said, I am having an animation. I'm doing it. I know how to draw. I have some notions in drawing, but I just learned on the go. And the funniest thing is that Procreate does have a section for animation, but it's the most basic thing you can imagine, really. And it's more intended for doing like a small GIF or something for your social media. And somehow I did an entire three entire video clips out of that. So I was very proud of myself. And so basically, I imagine a whole story behind the song. Like, okay,
Mm,
that song talks about two people who, because of circumstances, they have to be away from each other. And then the song is really about getting back together, and like finally we can be together again. So I just imagine this is the Middle Ages. He went to the Crusades, and after many years, he comes back, etc. Just a backstory, and so I tell that backstory on my video, and then I am very perfectionistic. So there's a moment where there's a letter that he's sending to her, and because it's 12th century in France, I needed to look how was the ancient French of that century written. So if you read it, even if you know French, you say it is not written like that today. No, it's 12th century
mm,
French. That's how freaky I am.
mm.
So that took me a lot of time, but I did it more simple than Sola. Sola was like that took me forever to do, and is my favorite video of all three that I made. Yeah, so that's basically.
The story behind it, yeah, it does a really good job of walking through the story. Your other song you just mentioned, Guerra, Odor y Dolor. Of
Mhm.
course, I'm Italian and my Spanish is terrible. I think I
No
kind of
worries.
Italian, which means war, hatred, and pain.
Yeah.
So it's very poetic. It's soft, and then it goes hard driving again. It kind of weaves back and forth. Talk to me about your process of writing that.
Wow, so that process was a little bit more conscious. It was during the pandemic, during the lockdown,
Mm,
and I was kind of feeling that there was some darkness in all
yeah.
this whole process, that
Mm,
and it, uh, like something inside of me needed to do like a certain, I don't know, if express some type of warning that there was
mm.
something that we weren't able to see at that time that was happening, that later on it developed, right? And we all humans got caught up in like games that certain people play because of power
Mm,
reasons.
mm,
And yeah, it's like a warning that all these things are coming, but the real battle is happening inside of you.
mm,
Which side are you going to take? And ironically, we need that darkness so we can see the light inside of us, and hopefully choose the side of the light, spiritually speaking. So the chorus says, you can't escape from your destiny. Hell is within you. You have
Mm,
to fall into the abyss and look at the horror at the face, like face horror. And that's the only way you will find the light inside of you. Like you really
mm.
have to hit rock bottom. And s- I know for many people, they really, really hit rock bottom during those times, one way or another. So
Yeah,
it's a
there's an undertone of anger in it, Catherine, and but it's a warning as well, I feel. When you're writing a song, do you have the listener in mind all the time?
depends. Like in that particular case, yeah, I wanted my idea to be clear, even though I
Mm,
know not everyone is gonna grasp it, and that's okay. It's like, for example, um it's like this story in the Bible of the seeds, that the person is throwing the seeds in a path so nothing can grow because there's steps. The people is walking so nothing can grow, and then it's in the stones, and then in the desert, and then with the spines. But then some seeds will fall on fertile earth, and then they can actually grow, right? So is this basically what it means is that the
mm,
message of the spirituality, what the virtue really means, etc., is not always going to, like, the truth of how the world works is not always fall into prepared minds, and that's fine. You have your duties to keep throwing the seeds, and hopefully it will flourish into someone else. So, and also, like, my song can speak to some people, but some other people will better understand, for example, The Wall or
mm,
any Pink Floyd song to that matter. And that's fine, that's perfect, because it's needed different languages so we can reach as many people as possible. That's what's important. So I try to make it as clear as possible without being like too much in your face,
mm,
because at the end of the day, it's a personal vision. I'm not an activist, I'm an artist. So
mm.
it has to keep into that realm. And whoever resonates with that, then is perfect.
Yeah, you said it really well. You're an artist, not an activist. I mean, we often see, I don't know if we often see it, but is it important that the consumer, whoever's listening, get your point? I mean, what if they come away with something that's, I often go to art museums, and when I kind of hear a tour and I'd hear the tour guide say, well, this artist meant this and that. And I say, well, I don't get that at all.
Mm.
So how important is it that your message that you feel is clear isn't conveyed? Does that hurt the art? Does that bother you?
No, not at all. Actually, that's how it must be, because
Right.
when you
Yeah.
leave it there to the world, it's not like it's not yours anymore. I don't agree with that, but you can't control how other people are going to react to your
Mm,
art. And
mm,
that's great, because whatever they bring to the table, it allows them to also create that with you, and it enriches the piece itself. So if someone else comes and say, but I what I get from that song is this other outcome, I say, perfect, it's true. That's it's like a mirror, and that's what you saw from you, and that's what you needed to see from that song. I would have never thought about that interpretation, but
mm,
that doesn't make it less, because you know art needs to lead to contemplation, and contemplation needs to the one who's contemplating do their own homework, use their brain, their feelings, and come up with something. So it's a
mm,
two-way process. If I am giving them everything like already mashed up for them to just swallow, then it's propaganda. And because then you are not allowing the other person to
mm.
think and feel for themselves, and to evaluate, okay, what do I want to get out from this? Maybe it's nothing. Perfect, it's your free will to do that.
And so we hear artists sometimes say, well, I was intending this and I spent a lot of time to get the message across. And then you hear other artists, or maybe even that same artist for another piece of art say, I don't know what I was thinking there. It just kind of came out, so when I go to art museums, to me, it's like 100 concerts going on at the same time. I see one painting and I want to kind of grab that, and I have to clear my head and go to the next one. It's kind of hard for me because I want to kind of soak in what I
Mhm.
can from each. Um, my point here is I really like what you said. I've heard this before. Well, it's not mine anymore. It's not really the case. It's still theirs, but it's still open to the consumer. And that consumer can change their opinion. Maybe something else happened to them, tragic or beautiful, and they see things in a different light. And I think that's the beauty of art.
Yeah, absolutely, completely right. And also, not it's not because everything is in a museum that you have to acknowledge absolutely everything that is in
Mm,
the museum, because some things will appeal to you and some other things won't appeal to you, and that's fine. It has to be this way. um the goal again is contemplation and to get that spiritual nourishment. So a true artist, well, no, I don't know. I don't want to say what's a true artist and what is
right.
not, because it's
Mhm.
very open. But it's important to keep in mind, what's important is to give that spiritual nourishment through our art. And it's like I don't know, not everyone is tolerant to almonds, for example, even though almonds are very healthy a priori. So it's not for everyone, but it's there for those who will need it and will benefit from it. Other people would never want to eat fermented foods, but they are very healthy. They are there for those who want them, and so on and so on. So I rather go with my instinct when I am in a museum or a gallery, and if something catches my eye, I will just give time to that and try to take the most of that particular thing. And then if something doesn't call me that much, it's fine. That doesn't mean the piece is necessarily
Mm, mm,
worse. It
mm,
just didn't resonate with me.
mm. You grew up in Peru. You had a French father, and you always felt that you were going to go to Europe, and you eventually did. And you spent a lot of time there. You first went into acting, I believe, and you also play the harp, which is wonderful, just a very underrated, beautiful
Yeah.
instrument. But then how did all of that, that very large culture shift from South America to Europe, how did that influence your art?
Um, More than my art, I think it influenced me into
Ah,
being less like a raw person, more refined
mm,
version of myself. Um, More, it developed my capacity of empathy for
mm,
other people. Um, and therefore that influences your art, because then you are like a sponge for other people's feelings and situations and processes. And art is a way to take all that information in and do something about it, that is deep. So
did you always know you were going to be an artist, Catherine, even as a child?
yeah, I
Yeah.
did, even though I didn't know how, but I
Mm.
knew that that was my path in life. That's what I was born for. So
Hmm. Seguida, I'll follow you. It's very instrumental, very orchestral. Again, with that slow, kind of beautiful build. Talk to me about your process there. It's wonderful.
so that one was hard to do. I had the lyrics again, and at that time I was still very, very beginner level with composition. So I had a good friend of mine who plays the piano who helped me a little bit. He gave me a little ideas, and then I finished waving it myself, like a couple intervals and things. And then kind of unlocked me at that point and said, oh, okay, I know now how I want to address this. And
Mm,
I finished the song myself, and the intervals are not very easy to sing, like, na, na, na,
mm,
na, na, na. And so in 2020, which is where when we recorded that, I was like, my singing skill was like starting to be intermediate. So we had a hard time doing that one. I remember that I needed to stop for a moment
mm,
and say, I'll take 5 minutes. I was very stressed. And then my producer was impressed because I just said, give me 5 minutes. I went to the room on the other side. I just breathed a little bit. I talked to
mm.
some friends that supported me. And then I went back and then I sang the song, and boom, it was there. But then yeah, he had a hard time like making everything fit together. So that one was a little bit conflict, had a little bit of conflict.
Mm.
um but yeah, that's also just a love song.
It's a love song. Very interesting.
Mhm. Is when, sometimes people um they close themselves emotionally when, I don't know if especially men do that. um but yeah, when they are hurt they tend to go away,
Mm,
and it's kind of a way to say, I'll follow you, I know that you are hurt and I know that's why you are
mm.
taking some distance, but I am staying here, I'm following you, the traces of your sorrow, let's say, and I'll be there for when you decide to open up again. So that's kind of the message of the song.
It's wonderful. And is that taken from something personal? Did you read that? Is it how did that be manifested? How was that
Maybe it
manifested?
came from different experiences combined. I cannot say
Mm,
exactly. That song comes from that time where I was just writing lyrics, and
mm,
all I had in mind was, I need to have a lyric today, and tomorrow another one, and tomorrow another one. So I didn't give myself much time to think about what is this about. I just needed a lyric that convinced me. That's all.
Katherine Garard, what motivates you?
um my family, my friends, the loyal friends that I have, being a better person for them. It's important for
Mm.
the world, for bringing some positive things in the middle of everything. I truly believe that in spite of everything, we are going forward as humanity. Like if
Mm.
we were really really that bad, we wouldn't be here already. And if we are still here, it's because we've got to stay here, and no one is moving us from here. Only the universe, God, whichever you believe in, when they consider is our time, is gonna be our time. But in the meantime, we're staying.
Are you an optimistic person, Katherine?
Absolutely, yes.
I
I
get that from your music, and I get this from your our conversation.
Yeah, I see no point in being pessimistic. It just makes it
Right.
harder, unnecessarily harder. Like, okay, things are shit. So what? Keep going.
Yeah. You have a great story about how you were dead set against video games, but your friend turned you on to one, and the themes and the music, it turned you right around.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
You were dead set against video games. You didn't wanna do any video games, but
Oh,
your friend showed you
oh,
one that you really loved, and it just turned you around on it.
yes, yes, that was Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
I loved the story so much.
Sorry, Catherine, a little bit of a interruption there. We're talking about Final Fantasy X, this video game that your friend turned you on to.
Yeah, so I loved the story. I think it was a great mirror to humanity as well. I don't want to spoil, but I guess at this point now everyone kind of knows what this game is about. The love story was amazing. Everything about it was amazing, and the soundtrack is like, I don't remember the name of the composer that did it, but he's my hero. Absolutely, the whole soundtrack is so beautiful, so inspiring, and I to me that's like stories. We love stories, we love to be told stories, and the most important thing to me at least is that the story has something deeper underneath that makes you think and reflect. You don't always need that. There are stories it's just for relaxing, and that's totally fine, but I love when things make me think a little bit and have
Mm,
like an underlying message, but at the same time entertaining. For example, silly example, Angry Birds first movie, amazing, and amazing message. It's so funny, but it also has a message how people, those birds get fooled by those pigs that come take over everything, and they just go little by little, and then they destroy everything when they realize there's no their most valuable thing is gone. And that's
mm,
kind of what's happening with society today. There's forces that are there sneaking in little by little, and when you realize they've taken over so many things already. So I love that concept, and that anger is not a bad thing. You need anger to protect yourself, your boundaries. And when there's this whole trend of many things around you telling you, people, trends, messages, telling you, no, anger is toxic, you need to be calm and politically correct, and they want to make
mm,
you weaker so you don't fight back. So I love the movies that have this wake up message, and video
mm.
games as well.
How do you measure success, Catherine?
Right now, success to me is being able to do music and to do anything I want every day, like having my own timetable and my own schedule, and I can choose which type of people I want to hang out with, which type
Mm,
of activities I want to do. Um, that's success for me. Like, I'm not a slave. I can do whatever I want with my life.
good for you. And you're living that now.
Yes, very pretty much. It cost me a lot of hard work, but I
Mm.
managed to be in that position pretty much. Yeah.
So, Catherine, I started my business back in the '90s, and I was working way too hard. I was a slave to my time. I was working for my clients, and I wasn't paying attention to myself. 14, 15-hour days, and wasn't eating properly, wasn't exercising properly. I got myself up to about 340 pounds. Didn't even realize it. That when I had the appointment with the doctor, she told me, if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. My oldest was just born. So I spent about the next 6, 7 months, and I lost about 130 pounds. And people ask me how I did it, like there's some secret. I just say discipline, right? I needed to get focused. I now have this beautiful child that I'm responsible for. I need to be healthy for her, for the family. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life, Catherine.
So discipline has been a huge challenge for me
Hmm.
because I am like a the type of passionate, explosive, energy spurs type of person rather than consistent, low but continuous effort.
Hmm.
So I had to train myself to find again like an in between method that works for me. This mixture of just do the things you have to do every day, and how you can actually fall in love with that,
Hmm.
and do it. And if you are in a spree of energy, you just do more. And if you have no energy, I try to at least do what's non-negotiable. And therefore it's try to simplify as well, not to put so much pressure on myself, but not either like no pressure at all, and to rather be like, what's important is that the needle moves forward, even if just a little bit each day, because not every day is going to be perfect. So when I feel great, I do more. When I feel not so great, I do less, but always try to do something. So that's what I came up with for now. So no, I'm not honestly the most disciplined person in the world, but I try to find my ways into that.
Hmm.
Ins-
So you try to develop some kind of control that creates a routine?
I normally hate routines, but I try
Uh,
to have what has worked best for me in that aspect is what are my non-negotiables. What's my to-do list of 3 to 5 important things to do in the day.
mm,
If I've done this, even if I don't do anything else, I can be I can be okay with myself. So the freedom of a to-do list is that, okay, I don't feel like doing one first, but I do feel like doing five first. So I just
mm.
start with five, and then once I am in the momentum, I keep going until I finish everything. And if for some reason something wasn't finished that day, I say, okay, bueno, it was five things, I did four, it's fine. I just move that one for the next day and I don't beat myself about that.
But when you gave the example earlier of, like, being in the booth and it was tough to sing this one particular song, you needed 5 minutes to kinda get away and, you know, take some deep breaths and, get your mind off it and come back to it. I mean, to me, that takes a lot of discipline. I mean, why not? You didn't kind of barrel through it. You had some patience there, and even your process of writing songs. Did you say some are harder than other? You went 75 days writing lyrics. I mean, I don't. To me, that sounds from an outside perspective, it sounds like you're a little bit more disciplined than what you give yourself credit for. Let
I
me just
think
throw in my
I think
sense.
so. I haven't seen it from that point of view, that actually being able to notice that it needs some rest time is
Yes.
also discipline. Sometimes it's not
Yes.
about what you're doing, but what you are deciding not to do. So yeah, maybe I I am more disciplined than I thought.
I think so. I think so. Just my humble opinion from what I hear from your art and what in our conversation. But there's no wrong answer, Catherine. That's the great point to that question. I really, really enjoy talking to artists like yourself. There's a light there that you have that I just don't think that I have. And while I like just to play a little guitar and I like to sing, but I never really constructive. It's just the process of writing music and your process of having that other, the song told you, it demanded a duet. You don't
Mhm.
want to push it. It said it needs. It can't just be me. The way your art kind of takes that over is just wonderful, and I really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see what things you come up with in the future. I really enjoyed our time. Anybody listening, how can they get in touch with you, Catherine?
So I have YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, now X. It's Katherine Garard, Catherine. Then my last name is Gairard. You put that on Google, everything will come up. So
Sure will. It sure will. Yeah. CatherineGardMusic.com as well.
yes.
Uh, and Spotify, it's actually Kath,
Yeah,
right? It's
I started as Kath and then thought, I'd rather use my complete name. But now
okay.
Spotify is with Kath.
Ah,
Yeah, but you can put both and you'll find me. And at some point, I guess I'll sort out this Kath Catherine thing.
sure. We'll make sure to put that all in the show notes. I thank you so much. And I hope one day, if we're in the same continent, I know you're in South America now, maybe we, can get together and have a cup of tea. Thank you so much for your
That would
time
be
today,
awesome.
Catherine.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You be well. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.